And finally, what if pain isn't going down? You've got lower back pain, but it's not going down the back of the leg, because not all lower back pain goes down the back of the leg. There are different types of pain that people can experience. Pain can be driven from the facet joint. Pain could be driven from a traditional disc bulge. It could also be an end plate fracture, so the disc can then move up into the vertebra. But all of these elicit different types of pain. You've then got spondylolisthesis, you've got stenosis, so you've got all these different types of pain that could be coming from the lower back. Again, the Mckenzie method and the idea of centralization is all around the idea of sciatica and disc-driven symptoms that go down the back of the leg. If that isn't there, or if that hasn't been assessed, and you're treating something with lower back pain, because again, in Robin Mckenzie's book, he talks about it as lower back pain, not as sciatica necessarily. And also in this article, he talks about, again, this is another little caveat to it, he talks about when we have, what does he call it? Incompetent and annulus. So essentially a disc herniation where the material, the annulus, is coming through the disc and out. He says that's not necessarily, or people won't respond in the same way. So if they have a disc bulge, that will respond in the way you want it to from the Mckenzie method. So they will be responders. Non-responders, as a general rule, if they have a disc herniation, they won't respond to the Mckenzie method and the sort of the extension or flexion postures. And the same has been said about the disc height as well. So if they lose 30% of disc height or 40% of disc height, they won't respond to Mckenzie method as well. So again, there's all these little caveats that come into the Mckenzie method and any method, as I will always say, because there are limitations to everything. As I've said, there are limitations to the things I do. There are limitations to the thing McGill does. There are limitations to the things that Mckenzie does. There are limitations to everything. Any trainer that's teaching exercises, there will be limitations to their style of training. That's just a given. So we have to understand those. So as the trainer, as the therapist, as the individual, we have to understand strengths, limitations, and then we are able to understand who we can work with and who we can't work with, if that makes sense. That, I hope, is something that I am able to bring to the table with regards to people going through the assessment process. That's why when people go to the How to Overcome Lower Back Pain page, they have to answer 3 questionnaires. What that allows me to do is that tells me whether I can help them or not, because they write all their answers down and they go, and I can look at it and say, yeah, this is something we can do about, this is something we can do about, this is something we can do about. So they're kind of giving me all the answers that I need to be able to say, yep, I can help with that, I can help with that, I can help with that. Maybe I can't help with that, but I can help with these other things. So I'll be able to set everything up straight for them to be able to say, yes, I can help with this part of it, but I can't help with this part of it. And that's what all comes through in the questionnaires. So again, what we have to understand is that not all pain comes from the disc. Not all pain will go down the back of the legs. There are different types of pain. There are people that respond and don't respond to it. So disc herniations, as a general rule, don't respond as well as disc bulges. Same with disc height. If you lose 30% of disc height, you don't respond as well to it either. So again, we have to understand all of these different things before we can start giving the correct response or method or rehabilitation for the individual, because it may not include what we are qualified in, and then we just have to pass it on to someone who is qualified in it. But if there is some part of it that we are able to help with, then that's what we can help with. I work with a number of physios, chiropractors, sports massage therapists and take care of sometimes the exercise part of lower back pain, whereas they take part of a different part of the lower back pain rehabilitation. So again, it has to be used and utilised in that way. So hopefully that's given a little bit more context as to the Mckenzie Method, some of its limitations. Again, if it's used in the right way, with the right people, then no problem. There's nothing wrong with it. But what we tend to find in the industry as a whole is when people get hold of a method, they try and plug people into the method, and they just try and get them on the conveyor belt and get them going through. And if it doesn't work, well, then there's a problem with the individual. And there's nothing wrong with the way that we've assessed the individual or taken the individual forward. I think we need to go about taking the individual, listening to the symptoms, and then fitting what's needed, fitting what tool to what symptom is a much more advantageous way of rehabilitating. And that's what I try and do, again, within the capacity that I have, with the qualifications and experience that I have. Sometimes I may have to pass it on to someone else, or at least pass on this part of it I can't do anything with, but these parts I can. So again, there are limitations to what I'm doing. So don't think I'm up on my soapbox or high horse saying, you lot down there are all don't know what you're doing and I know exactly what I'm doing up here. That's not the case. The only difference maybe is that I understand that I have limitations and that I have things where I know my experience, qualifications lie. So I'm able to be more selective and specific about where I can make benefit and where I'm not going to make any benefit, so I can leave that alone. So hopefully that's been helpful. Hopefully it's given you a better idea of how I work, possibly in an indirect way, but hopefully it's given you a better understanding and understanding your lower back pain and lower back pain as a whole. So many thanks for watching. My name is Chris. I'll speak to you in the next episode.